Hey everybody, it's Gwen, and it is May, and that means it is Mental Health Awareness Month. And I'm coming back with more videos to talk about mental health. For those of you who are new, I did a whole month in March talking about mental health and how important it was, and I felt like maybe I was done talking about it until next March, but then May rolled around and I went to a workshop recently that really it kind of showed me the importance of why I need to continue to speak up about this issue and advocate. I want to say first and foremost that I am not a mental health provider. I am not trained in that. My background is in sociology and political science, so I am not a licensed therapist. If you need a professional licensed therapist, I strongly encourage you to find one. I have one, and I think that she's amazing. And I am so grateful for the mental health therapists that are serving our communities. So if you need some professional help, go find that person. I am not that person. I am just speaking from my own perspective and what I have observed. As I said, I am trained in sociology and I have that sort of lens that I look through the world at. And so a lot of times I'm seeing like systemic structural issues that are getting in the way of our mental health. And that really came into sharp focus for me when I recently attended a workshop put on by St. Luke's, which shout out to St. Luke's for putting this on at all. It was called Teen Responders, and how it came about was one of their youth pastors saw the teenagers in their church community really struggling with mental health issues, with having to deal with a lot of stuff, and wanting to provide them with better tools to help themselves, to help their friends, to help their communities. So he helped develop this program along with some therapists. It was interesting because last summer I was certified as a mental health first aid responder for teens specifically, and went through a workshop and a process of that. And I felt like there was some overlap between the mental health first aid and this program that was put together, and ended up speaking to one of the therapist advisors afterwards and found out that she's actually a mental health first aid instructor. So there is definitely. But anyway, so the teens were off in their own workshop in sort of an outbuilding at St. Luke's. And I should also add that I really appreciate that all of this was not religion based in any way. It was not centered or focused on Christianity. It was just about mental health. There were a lot of folks that were obviously from the church community there, but as a non-Christian, I felt 100% welcome. So shout out to them for that. So the teens were downstairs. The adults also had their own program upstairs. And I thought that that was great too, because the perspectives are different. Having been in sort of both positions now, as a teenager myself in mental health crisis, and now as an adult and a parent of a teenager, and seeing how that is different, there needed to be that separation. And then it was also great because the adults were able to speak freely and honestly about what was happening in their lives, and especially their kids' lives. And the thing that was really clear to me that was absolutely heartbreaking and made it clear that I needed to continue to speak up was there were multiple families who had a child in crisis, to the point where suicidal ideation was a daily issue that they were trying to deal with. Inpatient therapy was something that they were struggling with. And it made it that much more clear to me. There have been multiple instances throughout this year that for all of the talk about ending the stigma, changing the culture, changing the conversation, having honest conversations about mental health, we are not there. We are trying to get there. There are people pushing really hard to end the stigma and doing a lot of amazing work, but there is a long ways to go. So, why do I think that's the case? I think that there's a lot of structural issues. I think that, I think about what was going on for me when I was 17 years old and ended up attempting suicide and then ending up in a mental hospital for 3 weeks. The crisis did not happen. Well, the crisis happened on March 21st, but there were red flags long before then, but nobody was willing to acknowledge them. And I think that that is still the case. There are always red flags before somebody gets to the point where they're going to a hospital. But we culturally are not set up to acknowledge those, to offer support to people who are headed in that path. And I think it's because people are really scared. They're really scared of acknowledging the truth of mental health and especially the truth of mental illness. And it's not until there is a crisis that they're able to do that, because at that point, the choices get really stark. It's either support this person who I love and acknowledge that they are in crisis, or potentially lose them forever. So when it's that dire of a circumstance, I think people have to find the bravery to just be honest about what's going on. But up until then, it's so easy, and I think it's culturally expected for us to just excuse everything that is up until that point. And that is what I would love to see change, and why I'm going to continue to speak out about this, because when it gets to that crisis moment, the stakes are so high. And I don't want to lose anyone else. So I'm going to be back this month. I'm going to be talking about all of this yet again, and just sharing things again from my perspective. I want to thank everybody who supports me doing this, and lets me know that it's actually meaningful to them, that it's helpful to them. I really am just trying to help and change the culture that we live in so that it is one that's healthier for all of us. So, happy Mental Health Awareness Month. I hope that you do something for your mental health today. And if you've watched all 8+ minutes of this, thank you very much. I will be back later. Bye.